Hey guys, it's Josh here and welcome back to another speed build video. This house is inspired by Japanese suburban homes that you'd probably find in just the simple, more modern kind of suburbs of Japan. Well, not modern because basically everywhere is quite old, but the more recent reconstructed areas, I guess, of suburbs would be similar to this, and you might think this build looks a little bit boring, but like, if I'm being honest with you guys, suburban homes in Japan, especially the more recent ones, are quite boring because they're made to be space efficient rather than beautiful. So like, you'd often see houses that are built right up against a lot. Obviously you can't do that in The Sims, and this lot is quite big for that. So I decided to just make it look like at least that half of the house was up against the side of the lot by just basically extending the footpath and just making it look like as if it was like a public space, as you'll see me do in a few moments when I move the house as well. But for the most part it's just a basic box with a few windows on the sides, but I think the interior is where it really shines because I feel like I was able to make use of lots of design elements, if you will, of the typical Japanese homes. So as you can see, I'm just placing the windows now, and I do just try and do this weird thing outside where the carport is, which is quite obvious where it will be, it's just on the side of the house. I did try and make this like weird car elevator thing because in Japan, there's actually these car parks in many places where you drive on to like a platform and it literally like goes up and your car gets lifted and then it opens up another spot underneath. Like, how crazy does this sound? And I'm not even joking, like on like just the small streets of Japan, you literally see like, I don't know, 100 of these just like randomly along the street. Like, not 100 obviously, but like they're actually really common, and it's really cool and really crazy at the same time. But I just couldn't make it work in The Sims because the way columns work is it just wasn't working, because I have foundations in this build, so if I put the columns on the ground, it wouldn't reach up to the second floor and it would just be floating, and it just does not look right. So in the end, I just decided to do this simple simple get-together glass roof thing, the sculpture in the outdoor items. So when we do get up to when I'm trying to like experiment with the platforms, I'll just like skip it because I just wasted so much time on it, it's not even funny. Anyway, we're basically done with the windows, except for the back. The back windows have the biggest windows because that's where like the public space is, so there'll be a lounging area, there'll be a dining area and a kitchen that all go along the back. Whereas the front and sides are kind of just more like they're either bedrooms or bathrooms. But on the second floor, the back wall is actually 2 bedrooms as well. Yeah, anyway, we're up at the platform now, so I'll just skip ahead. I'll catch up with you guys in a minute. Anyway, all that failed experimentation has been skipped, and we're just at this stage where I'm placing this simple get-together item, which I think looks just as good because in Japan, having some kind of just glass or plastic shelter is quite common as well. It's probably not glass, it's probably more of like a plastic kind of material, but I'm just going to pretend that that glass shelter thing is actually plastic because that will fit in more with the theme. Anyway, the room orientation and layout doesn't actually take that long because it's actually a really small house, so it was actually quite quick to just like kind of come up with something to use as like a basic room layout. The house actually has 3 bedrooms. You're probably a bit surprised because I have no idea how I fit 3 bedrooms in this. I think like my more recent builds have a lot more bedrooms because I've been trying to like make my bedrooms smaller so I guess I can fit more in the same sized houses. But yeah, I was able to fit in 2 really good sized bedrooms and then 1 small toddler's bedroom. I guess that bedroom could be a kid's bedroom as well, but it probably would be a pretty bad like bedroom for a teen or a adult because double beds probably won't fit in there. But anyway, we're starting off with this kitchen now. The kitchen is very small because obviously in Japan space is limited, so the kitchen would be small as well. So I'm just trying to make use of all these design elements I believe to be quite Japanese styled that I often see in Japan, because I actually have been to Japan on many occasions, so it was really cool to finally be able to make a build based off all of my experiences there and experiences visiting all kinds of different houses in Japan. I really loved the Japanese suburban home aesthetic, so it's been on my to-do list for quite a while to build one of these houses, so I'm finally able to build one today, so that was really fun. Anyway, we're building the simple kitchen area now. Most of the time the kitchen and dining area are connected through like some kind of shelf or counter, and as you can see I did place a half wall down there as well, so I guess when your Sims finished cooking dinner they can place it on the half wall, and then another Sim can just bring it to the table and they can enjoy a nice family dinner. I guess that's an idea. Anyway, if you have noticed, I did start separating off all the rooms because I feel like in Japan all the rooms are like separated off except for the dining area and the kitchen area. So like when you walk in to the entrance there's a separated area because generally the entrances are like separated off for the main parts of the house, and it usually leads on to some sort of corridor or hallway because like usually the entrance area is like usually just where like you'd store stuff and like you just store stuff from outside, because you'd never really wear shoes inside. Like generally most houses in Japan have like strict rules, not really, it's like a strict household rule I guess, where shoes are just basically a no-go inside and they just stay at the entrance area, and there's like literally so much shoe shelf space because all the shoes get stored there. And apart from that, you just leave your umbrellas there, you leave your coats there, you leave anything that goes outside often in the entrance area. But anyway, we're moving on to the bathrooms now. At the start you might have thought that there was two bathrooms that are connected to each other, but it's actually one bathroom that just has two rooms, because in Japan generally the bathroom where the actual bath is its own separate room, because the way Japanese people typically have their baths is that they like clean themselves off and with like a little spray outside. So see those stools there? You'd probably like see people in Japan sitting on a stool in the bathroom, and then after they like shower themselves off with like a shower head kind of thing or scrubbing brush or a sponge or something, then they'd hop into the bath then, because usually the baths are like for relaxation purposes I guess, or to stay warm in the cold winter. So like generally it's not really seen as a place to clean yourself. You'd clean yourself before you get into the bath. I guess it kind of fits in with like how hot springs in Japan are kind of done, because in Japan if you go to a hot spring you'd clean yourself off first with like a little shower thing in like a separate area, and then after you do that, that's when you'd hop into the hot spring and start relaxing or start like just sitting in the hot bath. We're moving on to the bedrooms now. We start off with the toddler's bedroom. The toddler's bedroom is pretty cute because I did make it quite childish and I put lots of little cute toys here and there, and it is really green. I'm not too sure why I put lots of green items in there, but I decided to choose green for the room's color scheme. And also the two other bedrooms that are double beds have a red color scheme and a white and blue color scheme in the other bedroom. So it was actually quite colorful and quite nice to be able to do something like that. But apart from that, the house is quite simple in terms of color scheme, because one thing I did notice is that the homes in Japan are more based around like functionality and making use of space, rather than having to make it look all decorated and no clutter and everything is stored away, because obviously in Japan you'd not have that kind of space and luxury to be able to just store all the clutter away out of sight, out of mind, because it's just too small to be able to do that, and you just need to have lots of visible shelves and visible storage space, because it just won't work otherwise. It'd be impossible. Anyway, we're moving on to I think we've already been onto the bedrooms for quite a while now, but I'm decorating the two other bedrooms now. They're quite simple. I did make them quite similar to each other because, I don't know, I just decided to do that. But the furniture is quite different apart from the beds. I just chose the same beds because these city living ones are actually based off Japanese ones loosely, because they have futon in the name, so I guess it's somewhat inspired by Japanese beds. And some of the swatches are also pretty like Asian inspired as well. Anyway, and one thing I do on the balcony is put these like sized up towel racks, which I think looks really amazing, because one thing that happens in Japan a lot is that since like, especially in like apartments and stuff, since there is no place to dry your clothes, like a clothesline or anything, people just hang their bed sheets and stuff off the balcony, and it just looks so cool. So I decided to try and mimic that and use a towel rack, and honestly I think it turned out quite awesome. If you ask me, like, what do you guys think? Honestly, I think it looks so cool. And if you look at the house from like the back, it really looks like it's in Japan, since you can see the towels hanging off the, quote-unquote bed sheets hanging off the balconies. But anyway, we're moving back into the toddler's room, placing a few more toys here and there because it wouldn't be a toddler's room if there was no toys. Anyway, I think apart from that, we will move, well, after we do this, we'll move downstairs again because I haven't really cluttered the bottom floor yet. I've only placed the furniture, but the cluttering for the bottom floor doesn't actually take that long because all I did was place a few things in the kitchen, place like one thing on, well, I placed one accent table in the dining room area, and then in the kitchen, in the lounge room area, I just placed like a few like CD boxes or something, CD cases. And the outdoor area is quite basic because in Japan, I feel like this voiceover is more, it's less about what I'm actually building and more about in Japan this, in Japan that. But anyway, in Japan, the backyard spaces are generally quite small. In this build, it's quite big, but like, even if it was this big, I feel like it wouldn't be utilized that much apart from like kids playing sport because generally the weather in Japan, it's like there's obviously these times of like a nice medium in between, like a Goldilocks kind of temperature, but it's either really hot and humid or it's really cold in Japan, and only like in specific times during the year would it be like a nice in between, because like if it's spring or autumn, it would be like in those periods of time would be when it's kind of like more comfortable, but like it's either really cold or it's really either humid. But anyway, I think we're essentially ready to start moving outside. I do like shrink the bathroom laundry area a little bit because it was a bit small. I mean, it was a bit big, so I made it a little bit smaller. But then after that, we move outside. One thing I was able to do outside was make it look like one side of the house was right up against the side of the lot, because I feel like basically the suburban homes in Japan are just basically built right up against the lot, usually because they're just trying to make use of as much space as possible, or they're trying to create as much living space as possible on the tiny lots that exist in Japanese suburbs. So I just decided to make it look like the footpath continues on. And I was able to put like some public items in there, such as like a bench, and I even put a few vending machines down there because if you didn't know, in Japan there are vending machines literally everywhere because the prices are actually really reasonable, and the kinds of stuff they sell is just crazy because like there's vending machines in Japan that sell like hot food, hot drinks. I'm not sure about hot food, but I know that there's ones that sell hot drinks, electronics and stuff like that. It's so crazy and it's so convenient. Unlike Australia, and I'm not sure if other countries are like this as well, but in Australia, vending machines are just so expensive and such a waste of money to buy from. So like they're not really used that much unless it's like it's actually like an emergency situation. Apart from that, I literally never use vending machines. But yeah, that's basically another thing about Japan. There's just so many vending machines in Japan, it's not even funny, but it's actually really convenient and lots of people actually use them. So it makes sense as to why there's actually a lot, because they're profitable. But anyway, after we place like a few more plants and stuff down and like a basketball hoop in the backyard for kids, I think we're essentially done. So yeah, I'll leave you guys off here for the time being. There will be screenshots at the end of this, so definitely stay tuned for that. And if you'd like to find this build on the gallery, it will be up on the gallery under IllogicalSims. Just look for the house called Japanese Suburban Home. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!